This story is for you. Chapter 3. Monday morning. Kian got to school early and stood in the front playground watching teachers arrive in the car park. The sun was illuminating a pair of trees across the road next to the children's centre. He thought back to Saturday night. How had he not gone into the bookshop? Although he had gone as far as sneaking round the back of the shop, even putting the key in the door because he yearned to go back in there, safe, warm, quiet. But it was wrong. He knew that. When the head teacher walked up to the school reception, carrying what looked like a pile of comic books, he nodded to Kian, then to the others. "Hungry?" he smiled. This was a prompt for anyone who wanted to come in for a piece of toast and a cup of orange juice or milk. Kian wasn't just hungry, he was ravenous. He took 2 pieces of toast and a juice from the table in the hall, then sat to start eating. He'd barely swallowed a mouthful before he noticed the head teacher was next to him with 4 more pieces of toast, all smothered in jam, plus a glass of milk. "Kian, these are for you," the head teacher said. "Come and meet a friend of the school. She's in my office." Kian stood up and followed the head teacher. Left out of the hall into the room where the head teacher kept his reading books, there was a round table. On the far side was a woman. She was quite young and had short brown hair. "Hello, Kian," she began. "I'm Miss Mystery." "Hello," Kian said. "I'm a social worker," Miss Mystery told him. "Will you come and sit down for a chat?" Kian nodded. He wondered how she knew his name. Miss Mystery pulled a seat out for him. "Good to have something to eat before class?" she asked. "Yeah," Kian replied. He felt better already. He liked toast. He liked this woman. She seemed kind, but he knew what a social worker was. His mum had warned him about them, that he was never to speak to them. She said they took children away, made them move school. "Did something happen to your eye?" Miss Mystery asked. Kian nodded. He began to chew more slowly. His throat felt like it was closing up. He took a sip of his milk and stared back at the woman. She had a stud in her nose. She smelled of flowers. "Can you remember how it happened?" Miss Mystery asked gently. Kian was ready for the question. He'd been practicing what he'd say if anyone asked, and he knew she'd be aware of the bookshop and the police, because Sean had said that everyone knew. "I broke into a bookshop and fell over," he said. "I smashed my eye. The police took me home." At lunchtime, Kian stayed on the far edge of the playground near the fence to Beauville Drive. Most of the Year Sixers were playing football. Jazz and Sammy had asked him if he wanted to join in, but he'd smiled and said he'd hurt his leg and that he'd play tomorrow. "Kian?" The voice came from behind him. Kian ignored it at first, but he was well aware it was Molly, and he could hear Sean laughing too. "Kian Law! Kian Law! Kian Law!" Molly's voice was getting louder, and Kian knew she'd keep going until he looked. He didn't want one of the TAs on duty looking round, so he walked over to them. Molly and Sean were standing in their secondary school uniforms, with 2 of the Year Sevens in one of the gardens that backed onto the school. "You coming out tonight?" Molly asked him. Or was she telling him? "We thought we'd go to the pavilion." Kian shook his head and looked back into the playground. Now he wished one of the TAs was coming over. "Why not?" Molly goaded him. "Are you scared?" Kian was scared. He was scared of getting into trouble, scared of Molly and Sean. But like you always say when someone asks you if you're scared, he said no. One of the other Year Sevens were grinning. "Come on, Kian Law, why won't you come out with us?" Kian felt a wave of panic go through him. Now he had to say yes. Now he had to go. They had him cornered. Then a voice. Behind him, from the safety of the playground, a girl was there, a Year 5. She was called Paige. Kian had seen her in assembly being given prizes. She was one of the school librarians. "Who's your girlfriend?" Molly asked in a sharp voice. Paige spoke calmly, ignoring the other girl's remark. "Sir needs to speak to you in the library," she began. "He said right now." Paige spoke loudly so that Molly and Sean could hear it too. "Ooh," Sean grinned. "What have you done now, Kian? Been robbing more shops?" Kian turned and followed Paige across the playground. When they got to the library, it was empty. "Where's Sir?" Kian asked Paige. "He's not coming really," Paige said. "I lied to get you away from them. I was worried about you. That Molly is bad. She lives on my street. She'll get you into trouble. Kim was about to snap at the Year 5 girl and ask her why she was sticking her nose into his business. Then he remembered what she'd said. I was worried about you. He couldn't remember anyone saying that ever. Not to him. It disarmed him. Thanks, he muttered. They sat in silence for a few seconds, Paige leafing through the pages of a pile of books. Cian slumped into his seat. He felt relaxed and tired. He'd never been in the library, apart from when they changed their books. It was quite nice when it was quiet, a bit like the bookshop. He looked around at the shelves and felt a jolt of interest. Have you got a book called Escape to the Future? Cian heard himself asking. By Robin Sillitoe? Paige asked. I think so. Cian knew so, but he didn't want to look like he knew everything about that book. That felt too weird. Have you read it? Paige asked. Cian shook his head. Just a bit of it. I can get it for you, Paige said. Cian sat up on his seat. Can you? Then the whistle sounded outside. Paige jumped up. Cian felt disappointed. I have to go and see Sir, Paige said. I'll see you later, yeah? Yeah, Cian echoed. Year 6 had PE after lunch. They were playing dodgeball. It all went really well until Mr. Savage took a ball in the face. For a second, even a half second, Cian could see he looked rattled. But then the teacher started laughing like it was funny, and everyone laughed at him. During the game, Cian kept looking over to the garden where Sean and Molly had been, terrified he'd see them again. Cian, for goodness sake, Mr. Savage was shouting, concentrate! Cian shook his head and saw some of the classmates laughing. Are you with us? Mr. Savage asked. Yes, sir, Cian said. You need to do better than that, Cian, Mr. Savage warned. Sorry, sir, Cian said. At that exact moment, another ball smashed into the side of Mr. Savage's face and knocked his glasses clean off. Cian winced for him. At the end of the day, Cian wanted to leave school quickly. He needed to be sure that there were adults around when he walked home. No one ever came to collect him, but he could walk down Cotmanhay Road and Nelson Street whilst there were adults around, just in case Sean, Molly or Cav or any of the other Year 7s were loitering. He didn't want to end up going with them to the pavilion, or anywhere else for that matter. But Paige was standing at the gate. She waved him over. She had a small paper bag in her hands. It was white and green. Cian frowned. He was embarrassed to be seen with a Year 5 girl and was keen to get going. But the bag demanded his attention, so he went over to her. Got you this, she said, handing Cian the bag. What is it? Cian asked, not taking it. Paige pressed it into his hands. Something for you, she smiled. Cian opened it. He gasped as he saw a brand new copy of Escape to the Future by Robin Sillitoe.